Welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. I am your host, WIZE. And today on the show, we welcome the legendary Neal Schaffer, a leading global voice in digital marketing strategy, social media growth, influence marketing, and content creation. Neal is the founder of PDCA Social and serves as a fractional CMO to businesses of all sizes looking to cut through the noise and achieve real marketing results. With over 15 years of experience in simplifying the fast-paced digital marketing world, Neal has authored 6 incredible books, including his newest release, Digital Threads, and Maximizing LinkedIn for Business Growth. I'm excited to bring him onto the stage. Welcome to the show, Neal Schaffer. Hello.
Hey, Wise. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, pleasure's all mine. It's pleasure's all mine. So, what originally inspired you to dive into the world of digital marketing?
Oh, man. My background was actually sales. And I realized in doing sales, and I was doing B2B sales, that we needed a story, right? We needed some way to differentiate what we were doing. I was selling semiconductors at the time, believe it or not. So, and there were a lot of other companies doing the same thing. So we needed something that would differentiate us. And I found that storytelling, obviously relationships, events, doing things outside of sales that we would call marketing / business development. To me, I thought it had more impact on the bottom line over time. Fast forward, I actually started my career in Asia. Long story, came back to the United States, and social media was just starting to boom. This was back in 2008, 2009. I became a big user of LinkedIn. And I found at the time that the companies that really wanted help with their social media were more on the marketing side than on the sales side. So that is another reason why I went full force into marketing, and specifically social media and then digital marketing.
When businesses feel overwhelmed by digital marketing, where should they truly start?
Man, well, I guess they should start with, who their customer is, where do they hang out, what sort of content do they like to consume, obviously what products and services you sell, you probably have that down, but it's really taken a zero base or a zero reset in trying to figure out, who your user is, what makes them tick, where they are, and really adjusting strategy from there. When I look at strategies, I look at the 3 big components being search, email, and social. So the social is the easy, not easy, but easy to understand. We need to figure out sort of where they are in social media, what they do when they're hanging out there, how, why would they want to engage with us? But there's also that search side, the whole Google SEO side. And then there's an email side. How do we keep in touch and build a relationship and nurture them over time? So I think starting with those 3 basic pillars is a great way to sort of do a reset and find your voice in digital marketing.
So how did you decide it was the right time to launch PDCA Social and your fractional CMO services?
That's a great question. I originally got asked, I wrote my first book back in 2009, and I got asked to do a lot of speaking. And so it's like, well, if I speak, will you buy, 50, 100 copies of my book? And everyone was like, sure, right? And it was really over the course of 2 weeks, and I still remember it was January 2010, I had 4 different companies reach out to me, all wanting help. And that was sort of the sign that I should probably create a company and help them. And I had a choice then. I could have become an agency where I do it for them, or I go the consultancy route where I sort of educate them, train them, help them. So that's where I decided to go that route of consultancy and really haven't looked back. I launched an agency at one point, but then I had a local customer in Southern California, and they said, Neal, we love the consulting work that you've done for us, but we need you. We want you to be on staff. We want you to come into our office for a half day a week and implement your strategy and train our staff. And, would you be open to that engagement? And that was really my first fractional CMO gig, which was less of a consulting project and more of I am one of your employees. I report to the CEO. I help train the people under me. Let's create strategy together. And that's, bring me in as if you needed a CMO. So, everything I've done Wise, it's been based on customer demand and reading the atmosphere and reading the room and deciding, at this point in time, I should probably pull the trigger and do this or do that action. So sometimes we make mistakes doing that, but so far as my career, it's all worked out really well.
Your new book, Digital Threads, is creating buzz. What sparked the idea behind it?
Yeah, I write my books based on what I see, what I learn from working with customers. So this is a great example. This book really started where my last book stopped, which was the coronavirus pandemic. I published my last book right when we were going on lockdown, and it was then that companies were now okay working remotely that I got this big uptick in fractional CMO demand. Because I wrote my last book on influencer marketing, everybody was really interested in working with influencers. But I realized when they talked to me that they had decided that influencer marketing was best for them, but I believe that there might be other types of digital marketing that might be more effective for them. So that's where I started going from social media influencer marketing to helping companies with all of digital marketing. And really, the book outlines my whole process and a lot of the frameworks I created since the pandemic of helping companies as their fractional CMO, so that if you can't afford to hire a fractional CMO, read the book and it'll guide you through the same process I use with my clients.
What do you think LinkedIn is still? Why do you think LinkedIn is still underrated compared to other social media platforms?
Yeah, LinkedIn's just not as sexy as a TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. It's always been a place that people are like, well, if you're looking for a job, go over to LinkedIn. But I think it's way more impactful than that. It really is this professional hub. So if you're interested in investing in your career and in your personal branding, it still is the place to be seen. It is the place where businesses look for people as well. So to me, it's a form of career insurance, right? You never know what's going to happen in your career, but if you build that personal brand on LinkedIn and you build a network there and you engage with others, it's going to reap dividends over time.
Yeah, I've actually the last few years been working on building my LinkedIn influence, which is doing pretty well now that I'm being more consistent on it. That's what it took for me, is to just be more consistent on it and posting on it more constant.
Yeah, I think consistency is big. If you think of the way that algorithms work, consistency is one thing. If you post and they're serving your content to people and then you stop posting, you miss out on those opportunities to reach those people, which now other people are reaching them. So, I know a lot of people dread what they call the hamster wheel of content creation. So I'm not going to say you need to post every day. Post what you feel comfortable doing. But if you could show up like once every week, I think that's awesome, and it's enough to be consistent.
How has AI shifted the way you approach marketing strategy for your clients?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think AI is now part of everything we do in marketing, whether we like it or admit it or not, right? So the whole content creation process, anywhere from ideation to optimization, there's a role that AI can play. Obviously AI relies on a lot of training data. So for those that have been in marketing that have written a lot of content, it's actually a lot easier for us to use it in a better way because it makes it easier for the AI to understand our voice, right? So I also think it's improved the quality of many things we do. I mean, for instance, wise, we're both podcasters, right? So I'll go in and I will basically tell ChatGPT, hey, these are my 50 most recent podcast episodes. These are the top 10 in terms of downloads. And by the way, here are my biggest competitors according to a tool. There's a tool called Spark Toro. And if you go to Spark Toro, you can get some free credits. And basically, if your website has enough traffic, it predicts what podcasts, it's pretty crazy, but what podcasts people go to your website and listen to. So it came up with Amy Porterfield, a few podcasts. So I plug in all that information and then it's able to say, hey, I recommend based on the gaps in your content, what you've got a lot of downloads on, I recommend these topic ideas, right? So just that alone, when I don't know what to talk about in a given week, it gives me ideas. And at a minimum, and it gives you really savvy ideas based on data. So it's just one example of many in which AI can play a role. And I think, another growing role that we hear in terms of marketing, which is also sales, is really creating an AI focus group or an AI persona of your target customer. And then if you give it enough training data and say, this is my target customer, these are the demographics, psychographics, this is why they might want to do business with me. This is their objections, and here's answers to their objections. Whenever you have, a new business proposal, you first upload it to AI and you ask it to, on behalf of that target audience persona, would they approve of it or not? If they wouldn't approve of it, why not? Or here's a PowerPoint I'm going to give to a potential client. What might their objections be? And so there's a whole, as we learn different ways of using AI, there's all these layers of the onion that we're unpeeling, and we're finding some pretty interesting ways of using it. It is time saving, but I think we're also improving the quality by investing a lot more time into it to get even better results.
Yeah, no, it's actually helped me with how I organize my podcast now. It's helped me cut down dramatically on some of the things I do. I'll upload my audio into, because I use Cast Magic. I'm gonna upload the audio onto Cast Magic. It'll give me quotes, timestamps, a blog post, everything about the episode, and so it saves me time and not having to really sit down and timestamp everything and do all the other. So it, as a podcast, has helped me in my system compared to preparing for a show. Couple few hours, it probably I do half an hour now.
Yeah, I also funny story about Cast Magic. I also use Cast Magic, and then I realized I can create my own custom GPTs
Mhm.
and do all that within. So I do it all within ChatGPT. I literally have a custom GPT called Cast Magic. It's like, hey, please, I use Otter.ai for the transcript. I think it's the really fast, good technology, and then I upload it to a custom GPT. I'm like, hey, give me these outputs, which then I can change over time, right? And I have full control over. So yeah, I agree. If you're a content creator, I will then take a video like this using a tool called Opus Clip, which I assume you've heard of,
Yeah,
and let
I
Opus Clip.
use Minvo, but it's the same thing.
Okay,
Same.
yeah. And the AI recommendations may not be 100%, but out of 30 clips that it recommends, I just start with the top and I just take the top 5 that resonate with me, and that saves me a ton of time as well.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I do the same exact thing with Minvo. I don't use all 30 clips from an episode. I'll take
yeah,
probably the top 5. I'll actually view them, and then I'll also add my little B-roll films in there, and it's right. It's all in the click right there. It doesn't take me
yep,
long to edit, and so yeah, it saves me so much time and helping me be able to put out content more consistent.
agreed, 100%.
So what is a common mistake businesses make when trying to build a digital presence?
Um, I think number one is they go for the sexy, oh, we got to be on TikTok. Well, if your audience isn't on TikTok, it doesn't make sense, right? So once again, it's really understanding the audience. And the other one is that, you know, becoming active on social media requires you to become a content creator. And not every business is a content creator. And I think that's the other mistake, is that they feel they need to be on social media, which they do, but they make content that's really promotional, not engaging, and they get no traction. And then they complain that social media has no ROI, but they were approaching it the wrong way, right? If they approached it with like this content creator mindset, even if they couldn't create content of actually following other people, engaging with other people, right? And making friends, indirectly, you might get more traction that way than in, putting up really promotional content that gets very little views in the algorithm. So I look at social media as just a great place to build relationships. And if you can't create great content, then build relationships with content creators, build relationships with customers that might generate user-generated content. Just take a different approach, because otherwise it's going to be hard to gain any traction.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's one thing I've since podcasting is networking has been key. The relationships I've been able to build with so many different people in the podcasting industry, and it's just key. It's very important that you network and connect with other people. And so for me, that was one of the biggest things when I first started. Didn't know much about podcasting, and it
Mm.
took me connecting with people, becoming friends, and being able to ask them questions and pick their brains. And until then, YouTube University, I started going on YouTube and finding out what I needed to do, how, because I didn't media wasn't my forte. I wasn't in radio, TV, anything. I was a table games dealer in the casino when I started.
Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. And I wish that more businesses took that same approach, right? Instead
Yeah.
of like sell, sell, sell. Let me learn. Let me try to become part of the community, network, make relationships. I just think they're going to be a lot more effective, but it requires time. I mean, you probably spent a lot of time doing that, but it does reap its rewards after time, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So with so many platforms available, how do you help clients choose where to focus their marketing efforts?
Well, part of it is in understanding where your customer is, right? So I think today, at least in the United States, outside the United States, maybe a little bit different. But here, pretty much we know that Facebook tends to be older, Instagram, millennial, TikTok, Gen Z, right? So it's a little bit easier to understand those platforms. Obviously, if you're B2B, it's going to be LinkedIn. If you're in tech, maybe X is still relevant, maybe Reddit is still relevant. But generally speaking, it's one of those other bigger platforms. And it also depends on the format of content. Like if you can't create video content, you're not going to be on TikTok. So, part of it is, what is the forte of your brand, of whoever's doing your marketing or content creation? What can they create? But I think a lot of businesses also forget there's also the role that a blog can play to get search engine traffic, right? And if you have a blog, you can repurpose that blog into short form video. There are, text to video AI tools that you could use should you want to. But really, using that blog as a place to share your views, create content, and then bring that over to social media might actually be easier than trying to create from scratch from social media. So, that's just another thought. But yeah, it's going to come down to your audience, what type of format you're able to create, and then it's going to be the analytics. I mean, if you're not sure, then try 2-3 platforms, and over the course of 1-2-3 months, you're going to see where you're going to get more views, more comments, more engagement, more traffic, and that alone will give you a really good idea, where you should be doubling down on over time.
What's the biggest myth about influencer marketing that you love to debunk?
Oh man, I think that people think of influencer marketing as just it's fake. It's all these fake profiles that just generate a lot of likes and have no meaning. Who are these people? They're really expensive. And I look at influencer marketing as being, going back to the original definition of influencer marketing. A lot of people have influence on social media. You don't need 1 million followers to have influence. Even, some niche content creators with just a few thousand followers, which is not easy to attain, by the way,
Mhm.
have tremendous influence over the people that follow them, right? So, influencer marketing is not just about working with influencers that have 1 million followers. It's also about working with content creators that have a few thousand followers. It's not just about paying a lot of money. It could be just gifting product, right? So there's a lot of different levels. And that's why I think that every business should really, getting back to the challenges that businesses have in social media, if you can't become a content creator, then you somehow need to get the word out about your product, working with content creators in your niche that genuinely like your product after you gave them the ability to, try it out. That is influencer marketing, right? And that is just to me a no-brainer. I can't tell you why. It's how many small business owners I met that say if only they would try our product, if only they'd try our service. There's tons of content creators who'd probably love to try what you have. So
Yeah.
give it to them, right? Give them an opportunity and see where it goes from there. And maybe not everyone is going to post about it, but if you develop those relationships over time, I'm sure there's going to be some that you will be able to gain traction with, and therefore start to get some word of mouth about your product there out on social media, which is going to be exponentially better than what you could have done yourself, unless you're a content creator, of course.
So how can solopreneurs and small businesses start integrating AI without feeling overwhelmed and having the pressure of like, oh, I have to use AI? No, just slowly integrate it.
Yeah, I think it's the same if you've ever used a virtual assistant or
Yeah.
if you ever hired someone and delegated them work, it's the same process. What is it that takes up a lot of your time? And it doesn't even have to be marketing related, right? It could be anything. But if there's something that takes up 5, 10, 15 minutes a day that you can write instructions for and teach someone to do it, that's where I would start with AI. Now, I don't know if AI can do all of it, but definitely if it can save you a few minutes a day, that's where you start. Once you get started and you see the value and you understand how it works, you will begin to think differently. Just like, hey, we didn't used to go to the internet to look things up, right? But after a while, we realized, wow, like this is really convenient. At the beginning, wait, you found that on the internet? Can you trust that? Today, we don't question it. And I think it's the same with AI. Once a few years from now, people are going to be laughing about this question because we're all going to have it figured out. But at the beginning, it's starting with, one little thing that can save you time every day. And then building up what I call AI literacy and then going from there.
Oh, it was so funny. The other day I was talking to my sister, she's older than me. She got me about 11 years, and I was telling her about ChatGPT. She like, what's that? I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know what's Chat? She's like, no. I said, you serious? You're joking? I was like, you're joking, right? She goes, no, I don't have a clue what that is.
Wow.
I said, oh, okay. So I explained it to her and everything. But yeah, it was kind of funny to me that she didn't know. I thought everybody would know, but I was wrong.
I thought everybody at this point knew as well, but hey, it's only been, 2.5 years. So
This is true. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, you're a podcaster. What made you decide to start your digital marketing coach?
Yeah, so actually, I started with a show that's like I have a few names over the time. I started back in 2013, believe it or not, with a
Wow.
show called Social Business Unplugged. The idea was like MTV Unplugged back in the day, like these acoustic behind the scenes, and I was going to have these like behind the scenes conversations with companies and with other marketers and myself. And really, I started it. I'm sort of embarrassed because I started it out of this whole content marketing, just like, oh, we have to be in social. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I have to have a podcast. And to be honest, wise, I wasn't a podcast consumer. I didn't really listen to podcasts myself. And so over the course of 6 years, from 2013 to 2019, it was sort of on and off. And then I came out with, I mentioned 2020, I came out with a book on influencer marketing called The Age of Influence. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna take this a little bit more seriously, but I'm gonna start now by actually becoming a podcast listener. And it was sparked by a conversation with this fractional CMO client. The person in marketing, she was like 30 years old, and I always listen to Spotify music all day long. And she's like, "Oh, I listen to her podcasts on Spotify." I'm like, "Are you kidding?" Right? She goes, "No, like podcasts are brain food." And then I'm like, huh, what, I started listening to more podcasts. I'm like, she's right. It's absolute brain food. And I've been doing podcasting wrong for all these 6 years. So that's when it's like, okay, I want to take this seriously. And now that I was consuming more of the content, I realized what I've been doing wrong. And I started with Social Business Unplugged. It came Maximize Your Social, which was the name of another book I wrote. And then that turned into Maximize Your Social Influence. And then it was 2022, and I was writing Digital Threads, which was going to be about digital marketing. It's like, you know what? I need to have digital marketing in the title. And I am a digital marketing coach consultant, and nobody had the name. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to name it Your Digital Marketing Coach. And it's been like 3 years. I'm sort of stuck with it, and I like it. And nobody has something like it. So yeah, that's what. But it were many iterations. Like I said, that's the fourth name I had to get me where I am today.
So how do you personally stay ahead of the curve in a constantly evolving industry?
It's funny. I have a weekly newsletter.
Yeah.
So if you like download a lead magnet from our website, I send this out. The weekly newsletter gives me an excuse to stay on top of trends. So I have an RSS reader, and I pop, really popular sites into it. So every week when I do my weekly newsletter, I am looking at the news of the week, making sure I didn't lose track of anything. So that's number one. Number two, it's conversations like these, Wise. I mean, I didn't find out about Cast Magic until Podfest, this
Mm.
podcasting conference, which I went to. Man, it wasn't January this year, probably over a year ago. But
It was they had it January this year.
yeah, it was last year that I found out about it, right? January of 2024. So when you go to conferences like that, Wise, you network, you meet people, like you find out about all sorts of stuff that you'll never find in a blog or a YouTube video, right? So definitely going to conferences and networking, and then having conversations like this. I mean, like you, Wise, I interview a lot of people on my own podcast, and it gives me access to a lot of smart people that I can ask a lot of questions to be more on par with what's going on.
Oh,
And then, just like talking to clients. I mean, the more people you talk to, the more you're going to learn, the more, because everybody has diverse opinions, experiences, and that's the way you learn, man, through diversity of experience. So yeah, it's not just one thing, but it's a culmination of things.
oh no, for me, it's definitely been being able to have these conversations, because there was one point I was like, I felt so selfish because I was enjoying these conversations so much, because like you said, we're learning. I get to ask these amazing questions. I get to, and then so then it gets pointed out like there's nothing wrong with you enjoying these conversations. You're supposed to learn. The fact that you're sharing it is like there's nothing. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're learning in the process, and you have the platforms to share it with other people. so they can also learn and enjoy it as well. So I'm like, oh,
It's a win-win-win, man. A win for everybody.
yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. I love it. So if you could give only one piece of marketing advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I am a consultant and I'm also a speaker and author, but there's no one consistent thing that promises to generate a lot of revenue all the time. So over the course of my career, it's gone. Some years consulting brings in the most money. Some years speaking, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I would say to create product earlier. Like these days, wise, like everybody has a course, right? And
Mhm.
I'll never forget, I was asked first back in 2012, like Neal, like you wrote this great book on LinkedIn. Do you have a course about it? Or I go to your website, I don't see any courses. And it's something I wish, even if it didn't sell, right? It
Yeah.
gives people something. People are looking for ways. Once they become a fan, they want to consume more of what you got. It just, when you have a product, you can scale it, you can advertise it. And it can generate more passive income over time if you do it right. So I would have told myself to earlier on invested in creating products.
Awesome. Awesome. What's one simple thing most businesses could do today to see a quick improvement in their marketing results?
One simple thing.
Yeah, one quick thing that might show a little bit of like, oh,
Yeah, I just came off a call with someone, and we had this exact same conversation. And looking at your Google Analytics,
yeah,
especially if you understand, if Google Analytics is programmed in a way that it understands your conversions, whatever they might be, whether it's a lead magnet or a sale, just understanding what people are consuming, where they came from when they converted, what content are they consuming of yours that got them to convert. Those, like, understanding that and looking at your last 3 to 6 months of data alone, if you haven't been, that alone is going to give you a lot. It's going to be your marketing roadmap, basically. And the larger the company, the more sophisticated they are. They're producing monthly reports. They have it under control. But most, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business owners, they may not have the luxury of having those monthly reports of the data. But every month or every few months, you got to go in there and check that out, because that's gonna be your North Star.
okay. So how do you define a successful digital marketing campaign today?
Oh man, digital marketing campaigns all start with an objective of what are you trying to achieve. So, understanding that, were you successful? So there are some large brands, for them, it's all about brand awareness. If a lot of people see the ad, they get a lot of video views, then they feel it's successful, right?
Mhm.
For me, there's got to be something that pushed the needle. So if I look at my benchmark data, if I look at how I've been doing month to month, did I see a significant uptake in impressions, in followers, in website traffic? Was there something that says, okay, I went up 10% here, 20% here, 30% there, and then what did that cost me to do that? And then at the end of the day, what were the results of my business, right? That's where I think at the end of the day, did it move the needle on your business? Because if it didn't, then there's a disconnect, right? If you're getting a lot more impressions, a lot more traffic, but you're not getting more sales, what's broken in the funnel? And sometimes campaigns are great for that purpose, to test ideas and to see, if that worked successfully. Also, if it did not work successfully, it gives you data to try to figure out where things are going wrong. So campaigns can be successful for a lot of reasons. Even if they're unsuccessful, they can be successful in weird ways by giving you more data to work with.
How do you balance being a creator, consultant, teacher, and speaker?
Yeah, it's a lot. I think the best way to balance it is by limiting your scope. So, if I got invited to speak about Snapchat, that's not my gig. Like, I'm not prepared for it, right? But
Yeah.
if you want me to talk about user generated content and how to use that in digital marketing, I'm all for it. So over time, I think a lot of us that do speaking or teaching, we acquire a large mass of content. The content is hidden in many different PowerPoints, obviously, but through repurposing that content and sometimes using that content as is, over time, it's less work to be able to produce the same result. So I recently, actually, I was in Vietnam a week ago. I taught a course there. It's a 24-hour course, but I'd say half of the content came from presentations that I done earlier. And then I have content for my blog, and then I have content for my books, right? So the content creating actually allows you to more easily create content for speaking and teaching. It's all, in my mind, synergistic. And then when I consult with clients, fractional CMO, that also gives me ideas for the content. So in a weird way, like everything I do in my mind is all synergistic. It all leads from one to another. And you can imagine why with AI, it makes it even easier to repurpose my ideas and to bring them all together. So yeah, to me, I know from outside, it's like, it seems crazy. Like, how do you keep balance? For me, as long as I skip to that scope where I know I'm an expert in and that I have previous material around and that I have experience in, then to me, it's all sane and I can produce a great result.
Awesome. Looking ahead, what trends do you think will dominate the digital marketing space in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it's funny. I just gave a presentation on that in Fort Lauderdale over the weekend. But obviously AI, that is the single thing that you cannot ignore. It will continue to impact digital marketing in many ways. Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, has said that all the work that agencies and content creators and all these people do, will 95% of it will be able to be done by AI, like in a few years. Don't know if that's the truth or not. We don't know what will happen, but clearly AI is going to, I believe, help. It's going to give us superpowers in terms of marketing, especially those that aren't necessarily marketing experts, right? I think it's going to give us a lot of help, and which is why I recommend you invest a little bit earlier rather than later. Short form video will continue to increase. I think, what's the stat? 2 years from now, Gen Z is going to be 25% of the workforce. And as they become members of the workforce, they become more influential in companies. They make more money. They have more purchasing power, and they consume content via the short form video. So, it's not just a fad. And even if TikTok goes away, even LinkedIn has a video tab on its app for short form video. So I think being able to create that sort of content is going to be necessary. And I would like my own podcasting journey. I'd spend time on YouTube Shorts, on Instagram Reels, on TikTok, consuming that content to better understand how to make your own. So those are the two big trends I see. I think we're going to continue to work with influencers, user-generated content, brand communities. That's how I see social media evolving, is that companies are going to realize either they're going to hire content creators like the Disneylands and the Taco Bells have done, or they're going to rely more on this user-generated content, collaborations with content creators, creating their own, what we call brand communities or like brand ambassador communities of content creators that will, regularly create content and push it out there on social. So I think those are like the three main trends that I see. I think, if I was to add a fourth, it would be that search is really becoming very, very fragmented with the emergence of, us just searching for stuff in ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. So all of that is going to require us to have more content if we want to be found, right?
Yeah.
A large language model may find one of your blog posts, but if it doesn't see your name pop up in a lot of places, they're not looking for backlinks like Google does. So it's going to require us to have a lot more content on a lot more platforms. And, I know a lot of marketers are already looking at podcasts and live streams like this as another way of creating content that then will be consumed by the ChatGPTs and hopefully they'll find us. So those are a few trends that I see over the next few years. Nothing brand new, but as they continue to, percolate through the system, they're going to have massive impacts.
Awesome. Well, Neal, we've come to the part of the show where you get the solo layout and you get to plug away, let them know where they can find the book, website, everything.
Oh, sure. Well, you see behind me, the name of my book is Digital Threads, the Small Business and Entrepreneur Playbook for Digital First Marketing. You can find, all of my books. I also published a book recently called Maximizing LinkedIn for Business Growth. They're all on Amazon. My name is Neal Schaffer, and my website's nealschaffer.com, and my podcast is Your Digital Marketing Coach.
Awesome. Thank you, Neal, for being such a great guest. It was a pleasure speaking to you and again to meet you. Anytime you want to come back on, I love having repeat guests. If you want to come back on to promote your next book, send me a message and I'd love to have you back on to come promote it.
I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you so much. It's been an honor and it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate you taking this time and sitting down and speaking to me. I am great. I greatly appreciate it because we've met through Podmatch, which is another great platform for podcasters, especially for guys who find it difficult to find guests for their shows, I highly recommend you definitely go through Podmatch. Did you get to meet Alex when you went to Podfest?
We have been connected on social for some time. I did not meet him personally, but it was actually after that Podfest where he put together a Podmatch community.
Mhm.
And it's funny because there was another company that reached out to me, another friend who started a Podmatch competitor. And he's like, oh, and I went on it and it was like crickets. There were very few people. It's like, you know what? Like, I'm going to go check out Podmatch. And this was back in, I want to say, like June or July of last year. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow, this is awesome. And there were a lot of people on there that I already knew, that I had already interviewed. So it's like, okay, this is going to be my home now for finding guests and for, pitching others as well. So yeah. And after that, like I've had communication with Alex, and yeah, he's a great guy.
Oh yeah, I got to hang out when both times that I've been to Podfest, I've been able to hang out with him and Alicia and a whole bunch
Nice.
of people in the community.
Nice.
It's amazing what he's doing for the podcasters, especially for on the hosting side. If you're an independent podcaster, if you're a part of Podmatch, he actually he pays you when you do certain interviews. And
Yep.
I think that's amazing to be able to give back to some of us independent podcasters who don't have a big following or who aren't monetized and aren't making money. This gives them an opportunity to actually make some kind of coin or something, anything.
No, I agree. It's amazing what he has, and just the whole platform, and easy to set up interviews, and a lot of that back and forth. We talk about AI saving time. His platform saves a bunch of time as well,
Yeah, yeah,
for sure.
it definitely does.
Well,
But
hopefully, I'll make it out to Podfest 2026 then.
I'm trying. I was supposed to make it this year, but I had surgery and I couldn't go.
Oh, damn.
But the last two I've missed because of last year. This past one was surgery. The year before was because my mom was ill, and I really didn't. It was towards the end of her final weeks, so
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't get to go. But I'm looking forward to 2026. I definitely want to go out there and then connect with my people because the podcasting community is amazing.
Agreed.
It's just I've become friends with so many different podcasters, and I mean lifelong friendships. People that I've connected with that um, I've been lucky to meet quite a few in person. And so again, it goes back to the networking and relationships and building these amazing relationships with people who are like minded and are doing some amazing things with podcasting. And so I get to pick their brains and learn and ask questions and grow.
And what's great is we all have unique audiences, and the average listener will listen to like 7 or 8 podcasts anyway. So it's not like we're competitors. We're you know what we're all in the same market. We're all collaborating, and it's good for all of us.
Yeah, it actually is. It is and it's actually great for you because now you're expanding your audience. Now my audience is listening and they want to go check out your podcast. So it's something important for podcasts to do is to go do other shows, and that's what I'm working on those. I've been slacking.
Yeah, it requires, I'm a big fan of John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneurs on Fire, and he's famous for, like I think he does like one every day. Just always, that's how you build an audience, right? You just got to get out there.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I don't do it as much as I should as well. It is a time investment, right? But
yeah,
it's well worth the investment if you put the time into it, for sure.
definitely. But don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and chat a little bit off the air with you. But thank you so much for being such a great guest.
Oh, thank you, and I hope everyone enjoyed the conversation.
I'm sure they did. It was great. I enjoyed it. All right, everybody. Another episode is in the books. Thank you to everybody who tuned in live. If you catch the replay, thank you. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Big shout out to my Real Wise fan, Bobby J, Brandy J. Love you guys. Shout out to the boss lady. And as always, a big shout out to all the essential workers out there. God bless y'all. Be safe. You know how your boy Wise does it. Peace out.